CreepyCorner stories.
Hey everyone, welcome back to CreepyCorner stories. You know, diving into the dark web is always risky, but sharing these stories with you makes it worth it. I'm curious, where are you watching this from right now? Let me know in the comments below. I've noticed that these kinds of stories hit differently depending on where you are. It might even make the experience a little creepier. So, tell me, are you watching from the safety of your home or somewhere less secure? I played the real Squid Game on the dark web. That's much worse than the series. Alright, so I don't even know where to start with this. I've never posted anything like this before, but I swear, if I don't get this out, I'm gonna lose my mind. Everything I'm about to say actually happened, and yeah, I know how insane it sounds. You can call me crazy or fake or whatever, but just listen. This all started about 6 months ago, and I still can't sleep right. I barely eat. I look like a shell of who I used to be. My friends think I just had a mental breakdown or something, but what happened to me wasn't a dream, and it wasn't some creepy ARG or elaborate prank. This was real. People died, and not in some metaphorical, oh, it was so scary kind of way. I mean, actually died. So yeah, this is my story. I played the real Squid Game, not the Netflix one, not some dumb cosplay. The actual version, the one nobody's supposed to know about. And it's so much worse than anything you've seen on screen. Part 1, the invite. So, to be real with you, this all started because I was broke. Like college debt, lost my job at Starbucks, almost got evicted broke. I was crashing on my cousin's couch in Queens, eating dollar menu McDonald's every day, and trying to freelance graphic design gigs off Fiverr, but it wasn't working out. I was depressed, doom scrolling on TikTok at 3 a.m. one night, watching those dark web horror stories with a blanket over my head, pretending it wasn't 200 degrees in the room because we didn't have AC. You know those vids, right? The ones with the robotic voices and scary music, saying things like, "This YouTuber found a red room on the dark web. Here's what happened." I was watching one of those when I saw a comment that legit gave me chills. It just said, "Those are fake. The real thing is invite only, but if you're broke enough, they'll find you." I was like, okay, edgy 14-year-old trying to sound spooky, but I clicked on the profile, just out of curiosity. The account was empty. No picture, no posts, just the name, Dead Signal TV. Something about that name stuck with me. I don't know why. It felt off, like too well thought out for a troll. Anyway, I forgot about it and went to bed. But the next night, I got an email from a no-reply address I didn't recognize. The subject line was just, "We see potential in you." I should have deleted it. I know that. But curiosity's a hell of a drug. The email had no message body, just a link. When I hovered over it, it didn't go to any normal domain. It was a string of numbers and symbols, like some matrix crap, and it ended in .onion. I knew what that meant. Dark web. I don't know what came over me, but I downloaded Tor again, which I hadn't used since high school. Fired it up and clicked the link. It took me to a black screen. No sound, no menu. Just one line in red text. You're about to enter a game that cannot be undone. Do you consent? Under it, yes or no. At this point, I was like 75% convinced it was an elaborate scam, but I was bored and stupid and desperate, so I clicked yes The screen glitched for a second. Then a weird loading bar popped up that looked like an old VHS rewind screen. It started playing this creepy, distorted version of the Squid Game theme, but slower, almost like it was underwater. Then the screen cut to a blurry, grainy video. It looked like it was filmed on a broken security cam. A person in a red hoodie and an old porcelain baby mask walked into frame, holding up a white card with a QR code. They didn't say anything, just stood there, tilting their heads slowly side to side. After like 10 seconds, the video looped again. I scanned the QR code with my phone like an idiot. It took me to an encrypted messaging app I'd never heard of. Like, not Telegram, not Signal, something else. And I had a message waiting. Welcome, Player 138. Your invitation has been accepted. First task, meet at McDonald's on 42nd Street at 1 a.m. Wear all black. Do not speak to anyone unless spoken to. Bro, when I tell you, I felt my stomach drop. I literally sat there for like 20 minutes, just staring at the screen, heart racing. It felt like a horror movie, jump scare that never stopped. It was so specific. 42nd Street McDonald's. That's Times Square. I had been there dozens of times. It's open 24 hours. Tourists everywhere. It was real. This wasn't some creepypasta. This was actually happening. I don't even remember consciously deciding to go. I just know that next thing I knew, I was on the subway at 12:30 a.m., wearing black sweats, hoodie up, AirPods in, but no music playing. I was so paranoid, I kept checking my reflection in the window to make sure no one was following me. When I got there, the McDonald's was exactly how I remembered it. Bright lights, drunk tourists, the usual chaos of NYC after midnight. I didn't see anyone out of place until I noticed the guy by the soda machine. He wasn't doing anything weird, just leaning against the wall, sipping from a large cup, but he was watching me, directly. He had sunglasses on, at 1 a.m. inside a McDonald's, and a single AirPod in. When our eyes met, he nodded, barely, and turned around to walk out the side door near the bathrooms. I hesitated, then I followed him. He didn't say a word, just led me down the alley behind the building to a black van with no plates parked half on the sidewalk. The back door opened by itself. Inside was pitch black. The guy stopped and said, without looking at me, "You step in, you play. You back out now, we disappear." I swear on everything, it felt like my heart was beating in my ears. I looked down the alley, back toward the street, thinking, this is it. This is where I either walk away and pretend none of this ever happened, or I go in and maybe never come out. And of course, like the absolute genius I am, I stepped in. The door slammed behind me, and everything went dark. The second that van door slammed behind me, I knew I'd made a mistake. Not the kind of mistake you can just apologize for, like texting your ex or microwaving foil. I'm talking the kind that you feel in your bones, like your soul already knows something very wrong is about to happen, but your body's already in motion and it's too late to back out. It was pitch black. I mean like blackout. Complete sensory deprivation kind of dark. No seats, no sound. Just me, standing inside the void. And then, click, the floor shifted. The van started moving, not with a normal engine hum, not with bumpy city roads under us. It was smooth, like it was gliding underground. I swear to God, it felt like an elevator going sideways. That's when the lights snapped on. Harsh, sterile, fluorescent lights that flickered like they hadn't been used in years. I saw I wasn't alone. There were 6 others, all around my age, early 20s, maybe late teens. One girl in a Nirvana shirt wouldn't stop crying. This dude with dreads kept scratching his arms, twitchy, like he hadn't slept in days. Nobody talked, no phones, no names, just that same terrified silence. Then, a screen on the ceiling powered up. It showed a glitchy loading symbol, like old YouTube buffering from 2012. Then a voice, flat, mechanical, genderless, spoke. "Welcome to round 1. The game has begun." And suddenly, I felt it. That click, like something deep and invisible had locked in place. A sense that life, as I knew it, had just ended. The facility. The van stopped moving, and the back door opened to a room. Not a garage, not a tunnel. A fully lit room with bright white walls and a floor that looked like it was made of old dollhouse tile. A single door at the far end. No windows, no exit signs. We were ushered in by 2 people in those same red hoodies and porcelain baby masks. They didn't speak, just motioned for us to stand in a line. The second I crossed the threshold, the van behind me vanished. Literally, gone. Door sealed up like it was never there. They lined us up against the wall and made us all face a monitor on the opposite side of the room. That's when the rules showed up. Round 1, red hand, blue hand. Each player will be taken into a room alone. You will be presented with 2 choices, a red handprint and a blue handprint. You may place your palm on one. Choose wisely. You only get 1 chance. Okay, I was confused. Like, what does this mean? Is this psychological? Some kind of weird social experiment? Are we picking teams? But then the Nirvana girl went first. They took her through a steel door on the right. We waited. 30 seconds. 1 minute. 2. Then we heard it. A sound that I pray never leaves my memory, because it's the only reason I know I'm not crazy. A scream. Not just a scared scream. Not like she saw a spider or got a needle. This was a full-body, soul-shattering scream, like someone flayed her mind before touching her skin. It went on for 15 seconds. Then, silence. The guy next to me started mumbling prayers. Someone else puked on the floor. Then they came for the next person. One by one, they were taken. One by one, we heard the same thing. Some screams were loud. Some were choked off early. One sounded like it was cut off mid-word, like someone grabbed her voice and yanked it out of her throat. I was the last one. When it was my turn, they didn't say anything, just opened the steel door and shoved me in, red or blue. The room inside was small, no cameras, no mirrors, just 2 handprints on opposite walls, one glowing red, the other glowing blue. I don't know why, but I instantly remembered that old urban legend about kids in Japan who die after choosing a red or blue paper in a cursed bathroom stall. I stood there, heartbeat in my ears. Then the speaker above me crackled. "Choose now." I walked toward the red hand, stopped, turned, stared at the blue. I don't know how to describe the feeling except it was like the room wanted me to choose the red, like the walls were humming with expectation. So I went blue. The second my palm hit the wall, it melted, literally, like warm clay. My hand sunk into it like it was swallowing me. Then everything shifted. The wall opened around my arm. I tried to pull back, but something had already grabbed my wrist on the other side. And then I felt it. A bite. Not like a dog. Not like teeth. It felt wet, cold, and metallic. Like something industrial was chewing on my skin with slow, robotic hunger. I screamed, yanked back. My hand came out, bloody, mangled, but intact. The door opened. No words. Just a masked figure, motioning for me to leave. I stumbled out, clutching my hand, barely breathing, and that's when I saw it. Only 3 others had returned. Out of the original 7. Nirvana girl? Gone. Scratching guy? Gone. Some dude I hadn't even noticed before? Gone. But it was worse than that. On the wall behind us were screens, and on them were videos, each one showing exactly what happened in the room to those who chose wrong. I shouldn't have looked, but I did, and I will never forget what I saw. One video showed a guy pressing the red hand. The moment he did, spikes shot out of the wall behind him, straight through his spine. He twitched for 5 full seconds before collapsing. Another girl chose blue, but when she did, the room locked, and a gas began pouring in. She clawed at the walls, screaming until her skin turned purple and her eyes burst. But the last one, it wasn't just death, it was punishment. Nirvana girl had chosen red, and instead of spikes or gas, the room filled with mirrors. She was forced to watch her reflection age rapidly. Her screams were not just of fear, but madness. Her hair turned white, skin melted. She looked like a corpse in seconds, and then the screen cut to black. Player files. Once the videos ended, another monitor descended from the ceiling. This one showed our faces, our real names, our home addresses, even pictures from our Instagram profiles, TikToks, DMs, everything. They had everything. Then the voice returned. You are now under contract. You cannot speak of what you have seen. Any attempt to contact authorities will result in immediate extraction. Your phones, devices, and cloud data have been compromised. Your lives are no longer private. I couldn't breathe. This wasn't just a game. It was slavery, blackmail, psychological warfare. I looked at the guy next to me, player number 129. He was shaking, literally trembling. Then he looked up and whispered, "How did they get my messages with my therapist?" No one answered, because we all knew. They'd been watching us before we signed up, before we clicked the link, before the QR code. They chose us. And for what, exactly? To play more games? To die? Or to entertain someone? Because I swear, just before the screen faded to black, I saw a flash, like a reflection. And in that flash, I saw eyes, watching. I don't know how long we stood there, after the screen went dark. No one spoke. No one even moved. It was like we were waiting for someone to say, "Okay, that's enough. This was just a social experiment." But no one did. And that silence, that heavy, oppressive, soul-splitting silence, it was worse than any scream. Eventually, the ceiling opened. Not like a trapdoor or a normal hatch. I mean, it peeled back, like flesh splitting under pressure. Behind it, a staircase lowered. Stairs that looked like they were made out of rusted hospital bed frames and mismatched tile. There were stains, some brown, some black, some still red. The walls of the stairwell were smeared with what looked like handprints. Dozens, some small, child-sized, some claw marks, deep ones, scratches like someone tried to dig their way out using nothing but bone and desperation. The masked people didn't speak, just motioned. Down. I was shaking so hard, I nearly missed the first step and almost tumbled. The guy next to me, number 129, had pissed himself. The front of his black jeans was soaked, and he didn't even care. That's how broken we were already. And this was only round 2. The carnival room. The stairs led us into a room that should not have existed. I know how that sounds, but I mean it. It wasn't just creepy. It was physically wrong. Imagine an abandoned Chuck E. Cheese, but underground. Walls painted in faded cartoon murals that were warped and melted like they'd been set on fire and repainted 1,000 times. Ceiling tiles cracked and breathing. Yes, breathing. Pulsing gently like a living thing was just under the surface, waiting to push through. There were colorful lights blinking, but not in rhythm, like seizures caught in electricity. The music playing over the loudspeaker was a mangled, static-ridden version of Pop Goes the Weasel, but the melody was reversed. It sounded like a child being slowly erased from existence, note by note. At the center of the room was a massive, round machine. It looked like a spinning carnival wheel, the kind you see at rigged boardwalk games, except instead of prizes, each slot had a label, and I will never forget what was written on them. Glass box gaslight, the saw room, open surgery mirror, May strip to bone rat pit family, phone blood wall. The last one was just 3 glitching question marks. It flickered like it didn't belong on the wheel, or maybe like it was waiting for someone specific. One of the masked guards stepped forward and pointed at the wheel. Then the speaker above us said, "This is round 2. The wheel decides your trial. You each get 1 spin, 1 chance. You do not choose. The game chooses you. Failure to complete your trial results in disqualification." We all knew what disqualification meant now. It meant death, or worse. The spins. Begin number 129 was the first to spin. He was too weak to walk straight. One of the guards shoved him, and he stumbled to the wheel, barely able to keep upright. He grabbed the handle, tried to breathe, then spun. The wheel clicked and rattled. Slower, slower, stopped. Mirror maze. They dragged him through a door marked with a cracked smiley face. We didn't hear anything for the first minute. Then the slamming started. Crash, crash, crash. Like someone running full speed into glass, again and again. Then, gurgling, a wet, sloppy choke, and then the sound of glass breaking. Then nothing. 10 minutes later, the door opened. One of the masked people wheeled out what looked like a bundle of rags soaked in black oil. But then I saw it wasn't rags. It was him. His body had been folded, not broken, folded like origami backwards. His mouth was gone, just sealed shut with blood and shards. They didn't speak, just wiped the floor like janitors cleaning a spilled soda. The girl next to me sobbed. They forced her forward. She spun. Open surgery. She screamed before they even touched her. They strapped her to a table in full view of everyone, pulled out a tray of surgical tools, no anesthetic, and they began. I watched a person get opened like a book. The masked person didn't even rush. They started with the chest, made a Y-shaped incision with a scalpel so clean it barely bled at first. She was awake. They had strapped her eyes open. They wanted her to see what was happening. She started choking on her own screams. Then they broke her rib cage open with bolt cutters. You could hear the pop of bone. One by one. Her lungs were still moving when they pulled them out. Still pink. Still trying to breathe. I threw up. Right there. The floor absorbed it like it was used to it. I fell to my knees and cried. The masked person just tilted their head like a curious child watching ants get crushed. My turn. I was fourth. They shoved me forward, still covered in puke and shaken like a leaf in a hurricane. I grabbed the wheel. I didn't even pray. I just spun. The wheel clattered. Clink, clink, clink. Slower. Family phone. The room went silent. The masked person stepped forward with a burner phone, handed it to me. Call one person you love. If they answer, they die. If they don't, you do. I froze. I couldn't breathe, couldn't move. This wasn't a game. This was psychological evisceration. I thought of my mom. She was in Jersey. Had no idea where I was. She'd answer. She always answered. I thought of my ex. He blocked me months ago. There was a chance. I typed his number with trembling fingers. Ringing. 1 ring. 2. 3. 4. Voicemail. I collapsed. I cried like I'd never cried in my life. Not because I was alive, but because I shouldn't have been. The masked person took the phone, looked at me, nodded. Not like good job, more like that was fun. The last player's fate. The final guy, number 141, stepped up. He spun. The wheel landed on the one slot we all had been afraid of. The speaker buzzed. Nothing. Then slowly, a hole opened in the floor. Not a trapdoor. A hole, like the ground was being eaten away from underneath. It revealed a pit. Dark. Endless. From inside, we heard breathing. Not animal. Not human. Something between. He tried to run. They tased him. He screamed, foamed at the mouth. They dragged him, kicking, into the pit. He begged. Please. I'll do anything. I'll do all the other trials. Please. Please. They threw him in. We never heard him hit the bottom. Only the breathing stopped. The end of round 2. The lights flickered off. We were left in the dark. The screen came down again, and the same voice, now slower, like it was enjoying itself, said, "Congratulations, survivors. Round 3 will begin at sundown. You may rest. You'll need it." And then the floor beneath us began to descend, like an elevator, like we were going deeper and deeper and deeper still. It felt like the elevator was falling forever. No sound, no movement, no vibration, just weightlessness. The 3 of us left. Me, the crying girl with the shaved head, 144, and the silent guy with the scar across his cheek, 107, stood like statues in the dark. None of us dared to speak, not just out of fear, but because words didn't belong here anymore. We weren't people anymore. We were meat. And this place, this wasn't Earth. This was the guts of something older than law, deeper than death. When the elevator finally stopped, it wasn't with a ding. It breathed, like lungs releasing stale, infected air into our faces. The lights buzzed on, and we saw room 3. Room 3, the archive. It looked like a library. If the library was built by a serial killer with a god complex. Rows and rows of bookshelves stretched higher than we could see, vanishing into pitch black nothing. But they weren't filled with books. They were filled with people, not alive, not quite dead, encased in some kind of transparent gel, suspended, their eyes wide open, all blinking, all aware, like they'd been paused, frozen in fear, limbs distorted and stretched, as if something had been trying to fit them into the shelves, like files in a cabinet. Some of them had their mouths open in silent screams. Others were twisted into shapes that shouldn't exist. One man had his entire body inside out. His skin was on the inside of the gel cube, like someone peeled him and poured his soul into a jar. In front of each shelf was a screen, a live feed, playing each person's life. All of it. Every mistake, every secret, every search history, every camera feed, every private DM, every thought they ever spoke out loud when they thought no one was listening. This place was called the Archive. The voice returned, not the same robotic one from before. This one was slower, more human, but not right. It said, "Round 3 is not a game. It is a test of value. Each of you will be shown a file. You will decide, keep or erase. The one you erase disappears permanently. Their file, their body, their existence, gone, forgotten. But if you erase incorrectly, there was a pause. Then the lights flashed, and the scream that followed was so loud, so raw, that it made our teeth ache. A disqualified player, not from our group, was shown on a screen, screaming as his own body folded inward, not crushed, not torn apart. He imploded, like his memory had been erased first, and his body was just reacting to the void. Then the voice continued, "You will each take one file. One must be kept. One must be erased. You decide who deserves to exist. Begin." My file. A panel slid from the wall in front of me. Inside was a case. When I opened it, a screen turned on, and I saw a girl. At first, I didn't recognize her. Maybe 13. Red hoodie, braces, curly hair. She was dancing on TikTok. Then a cut. She was crying in her room, journaling. Then another cut. She was on a Discord call. Someone was telling her to do things. Someone much older. His face was never shown. Only a chat log appeared. "You're so mature for your age. You trust me, right? Just one picture. It's our little secret." My stomach turned. I knew what I was watching. This wasn't just some creep. This was exploitation. This was grooming. She didn't know. She thought she was loved. Thought she had someone to talk to. More cuts. Now she's older. 16. Broken. Silent. And then she's at a train station. Just standing. Looking at the tracks. The screen went black. "Would you like to keep this file?" the screen asked. Yes or no? My heart pounded so loud it drowned out the lights. I was shaking, sweating. I didn't know what WikiES meant. Would I be saving her? Or would I be preserving her suffering? Would no mean she vanished? Or would I be giving her peace? I pressed yes. The screen blinked red. Correct. I dropped to my knees and sobbed. 107's file. I didn't want to watch his, but we all had to see each other's results. His screen showed a hospital room. A woman, late 30s, hooked to machines, dying. A little boy was playing with her hair. "Mommy," he whispered, "when you go to sleep, do you still dream of me?" He watched that, watched himself walk out of that room. Next scene, 3 months later. He was partying, laughing, bragging about how he used her life insurance to invest in NFTs and a Tesla. Then he crashed it. Hi. The screen paused on his mugshot. Blood on his shirt. Keep or erase? He hesitated, then hit no. The archive responded instantly. His mouth began to stretch. I mean split. Right down the middle. Like someone unzipping his face. He didn't even scream, just gurgled. He reached toward the screen, begging, trying to undo it. But it was too late. His entire body deflated. He was erased. Not killed. Erased. Gone. I turned, and he wasn't there. No blood. No bones. Just absence. 144's file. Hers was the worst. Because it was me. The screen lit up and showed me. Clips of me. Scrolling, laughing, living. All normal. Until it zoomed in on the dark web. Invite I got. Until it showed me clicking that link. Then it showed what happened after. Not just what I remembered. It showed her. In a different part of the world. Watching the same TikTok video I did. But she didn't click the link. She closed her laptop. Went to bed. Was fine. The archive twisted it. One of you was chosen. One of you wasn't. She became collateral. Then came footage I had never seen. Footage of her being dragged into a van, blindfolded, thrown into a metal room. I watched her scream, watched her suffer, watched her be used, as a test subject, all because I clicked a link. I felt like vomiting, but there was nothing left inside me. The screen said, "You may erase your file, and she will be returned. Or erase her, and you may continue." She was staring at me through the screen, eyes swollen, lips trembling, bleeding from her scalp. I didn't even hesitate. I hit yes. Keep file confirmed. The screen glitched, and then she disappeared, screaming, begging, and I heard a whisper in the wall. Wrong choice. End of round 3. The light snapped off. We stood alone in the dark. Except now, there was only me. 144 had vanished too. Not with a scream. Just gone. As if round 3 was never about survival. It was about selection. About design. About someone. Something. Watching every move and deciding who was useful. The voice returned, now more distorted than ever. Final round will begin at sunrise. Prepare to be witnessed. The floor opened again, and I fell. No platform, no warning, just dropped into the true level, where the real purpose of the game lives, where I saw what this was really about, and who or what is behind it. Next, the final round. You think you've seen horror. You haven't seen what they do with the winners. I didn't land. I didn't hit anything. I just kept falling. Not like a dream. Not like gravity. It was worse than falling. It was being erased downward. Like something was deleting me. Pixel by pixel. Soul by soul. I couldn't scream. I didn't have a mouth anymore. I didn't have a face. Just awareness. And then I was there. Somewhere. Someplace underneath everything you've ever known or believed. Below the internet. Below governments. Below God. The observation deck. They called it the winner's circle. But it wasn't a circle. It was a cathedral built from bone. Not metaphorical. Not gothic horror movie bone. Real human bone. Femurs for support beams. Skulls for lighting fixtures. Spines woven like snakes into chandeliers. All cleaned, polished, arranged with obsessive, psychotic precision. In the center was a throne. Not raised. Not glowing. Just there. Made from TVs. Old CRTs, glowing faint blue. Each screen flickered a different face. Some crying. Some screaming. Some staring blankly. Drooling. Eyes rolled back, like their souls had long since exited the premises. Each screen was a player. Each one a winner. And each one was still alive. Or something that resembled it. The host. It wasn't a man or a woman. It was a thing that had learned how to wear skin. It stood 7 feet tall, arms too long, neck slightly tilted to the right, like it had been broken and healed wrong on purpose. Its face looked like a poorly assembled composite, part wax figure, part mannequin, part you. Yes, you. I swear to you, on my last breath, part of its face was me. I saw my own cheek stitched in, my mole, my old scar from a bike crash when I was 7. It wore me, and it smiled, but only with the top row of teeth. The bottom didn't move. It spoke without opening its mouth. Congratulations, Player 138. You are the last remaining entity. You will now be initiated into the purpose. I couldn't move. My body felt like it had been injected with liquid static. The thing raised its hand, a skeletal mess of metal, bone, and nerves that didn't belong to the same species, and the TVs began to speak, all of them, at once, in harmony, in pain. We are the past winners. We watch. We record. We feed. I felt every word in my bones, like knives scraping marrow. They weren't broadcasting. They were broadcasted through. They were all inside the system now. Their consciousness wasn't stored. It was broadcasted. They had become part of the signal. The real game. The creature stepped aside, and revealed what was behind the throne. A server room the size of a stadium. Endless rows of hard drives, humming and vibrating like living lungs. Wires slithered across the floor like veins. Some of them weren't wires. Some were spinal cords, still twitching, still alive. Every screen on every tower showed footage. Footage from real life. People at Starbucks, kids on Discord, gamers in their bedrooms, cops, teachers, senators, babies, everyone. Live feeds, millions of them. Angles from cameras we didn't know existed, from places that shouldn't have cameras, from eyes, literal eyes, human, sewn into walls, jaws, ceilings, each one blinking, each one streaming. We are the feed, the creature said. We maintain the game. We select, we seed, we show. You are not the final player. You are the final curator. The offer. The room darkened. One last screen appeared. It showed me, back home, sitting on my cousin's couch, looking at my phone. Before this all began, the screen flickered forward, showed my entire life, my future, working a dead-end job, broke, alone, then older, bitter, dying in a hospital with no one beside me. You may return, the voice said, if you choose to forget. Another screen lit up. It showed the throne, empty. Or you may stay, and help shape the next wave. Help design the next sequence, the next games, the next players. Become part of the broadcast. Then came the final test. The chair. It was metal, covered in wires, needles already dripping. They didn't ask me to sit. I just walked toward it, like it was waiting for me since I was born. Every step felt like I was choosing hell, but the alternative was nothing. Oblivion. I sat. The needles entered me with the gentleness of betrayal, straight into my spine, my skull, my thoughts. I screamed, not out of pain, but because I remembered what I saw, everything, all the past games, all the players who thought it was fake, all the challenges leaked to social media, all the ARGs, the trends, the YouTubers who disappeared after investigating, the influencers who accidentally overdosed, the TikTokers who vanished, the Redditors who posted once on r/NOSLEEP and were never seen again. They weren't gone, they were integrated, broadcasted, merged into the signal, used as inspiration. One winner designed the red-blue room. Another made the mirror maze. A teenage girl invented the family phone challenge. They all thought they were playing. They were building. And now, I was one of them. This isn't a story. This post, it's not a confession. It's not a warning. It's a recruitment tool. I'm testing. I'm watching. There are 23 of you reading this who are already flagged. Your phones are pinged. Your faces scanned through front cameras. Your TikToks logged. Your FYP is curated for testing empathy thresholds. Your Discord servers are already being scanned for response patterns. And if you're still reading, if you made it to the bottom, you might already be getting your invitation. The final message: there is no escape. There are no survivors. There are only players and winners and the archive. Welcome to the real Squid Game. We'll see you soon. Sleep well. You're being streamed. My mother had sold her soul on the dark web ritual. Now my family is moving to another city every year. Okay, so I'm not really the type of person to post on Reddit, especially not on r/NOSLEEP, but I genuinely don't know what else to do right now. I need to write this down. Maybe if I share it, it won't feel so heavy in my head. This all started about 5 years ago, when I was 13. I'm 18 now, and my life has been a blur ever since. We've moved 6 times in 5 years. 6. As in whole new states, schools, friend groups. Hell, new names sometimes. And it's not like my parents are in the military or something. Every time I asked my mom why we had to leave again, she'd just give me this vague answer like, "It's safer this way." Like, what does that even mean? At first, I thought maybe she was running from an abusive ex, or maybe my dad had gambling debts, or something. But no, it's so much worse than that. And yeah, I know everyone always says that in these posts, but I swear, I'm telling the truth. This isn't a story. This happened. It's still happening. So, let's rewind to the first time I realized something was seriously off. This was back in 2020. We were living in Tulsa, Oklahoma at the time. I had just started 8th grade. I actually liked it there. I made a few friends, started a YouTube channel about retro gaming, and I even got to go to my first Starbucks without my mom. You know, normal kid stuff. But then one night, I woke up to this weird sound downstairs. It was like whispering, but not in English. It was guttural and wet sounding, almost like someone speaking while chewing raw meat. It gave me goosebumps immediately. I figured maybe it was the TV left on or something, so I tiptoed down the hallway, cracked open the staircase door, and what I saw in the living room wasn't the TV. The lights were off, except for like 10 candles placed in a perfect circle around my mom. She was sitting inside the circle, legs crossed, completely still, and in front of her was our iPad Pro set up on a stand. It was on a webpage I didn't recognize, something with a black background and blood red font. There were symbols, like pentagrams, but twisted, like they'd been glitched or corrupted. The screen looked almost alive, and she was whispering to it. I didn't say anything. I just backed away, shut the door quietly, and ran back to bed. But I couldn't sleep after that. All I could hear in my head were those sounds she was making, like a language no human should be able to pronounce. I tried to tell myself it was a dream, or that maybe she was just into some weird TikTok ritual stuff, like the kind that gets posted on those forbidden rituals accounts. But the next morning, I woke up to find all the candles gone, the iPad on the charger like normal, and my mom in the kitchen acting like she hadn't summoned Satan the night before. I was freaking out inside, but I stayed quiet. I watched her closely all day. She didn't even mention anything weird, but I noticed something was off. Her eyes, they weren't glowing or anything crazy like in movies, but there was something different, duller, grayer, like something had been drained out of her. That weekend, she told us we were moving again, just like that. No warning. I begged to stay. I even cried. My dad was weirdly quiet the whole time, which was not normal for him. He usually fights back when things get weird like this, but this time, he just nodded, packed the bags. 2 weeks later, we were in Rochester, New York. I tried to forget about the whole thing, honestly. I told myself she was having a breakdown, maybe stressed from the pandemic. But then it kept happening. Every year, every city. Every time we'd settle in, I'd start noticing the signs, the candles, the iPad, the late night whispering. And then something would always happen. In Austin, it was our neighbor's kid going missing. A sweet little girl who used to draw chalk hearts on the sidewalk just disappeared. Cops were everywhere. Her bike was found in a drainage pipe, snapped in half like someone had stomped on it. In Boulder, it was the old man across the street who got burned alive in his backyard grill. No explanation. My mom didn't even blink when I told her about it. In Seattle, we stayed above a Mickey D's, and I swear to God, one night at like 2 a.m., I saw a man standing at our window on the third freaking floor, upside down, just staring in. His face was completely blank, not like a blur. I mean, he had no features, just skin. And when I screamed, my mom rushed in and whispered something to him, like she knew him. He vanished. She said I was dreaming. This isn't just moving anymore. It's not running from something. It's running from something she brought into our lives. And I've been trying to figure it out ever since. A few weeks ago, I did something stupid. I went on the dark web. I remembered the symbols I saw that night in Tulsa, so I looked them up. Found a few forums. Most were garbage, but one thread stood out. It was titled, "Selling a Soul for Protection, the Hidden Cost." Inside, someone described exactly what I saw. The circle, the candles, the iPad, everything. They said it was a ritual from a site called Velvet Door, a hidden service, only accessible with a specific invite code and a Tor configuration. Supposedly, it lets you negotiate with whatever's on the other side for soul-bonded protection. But the catch is, it doesn't protect you. It protects those around you in exchange for someone else's fate. I haven't told anyone about what I found. Not yet. But I know my mom did that ritual, and I think she's been feeding its souls to keep us safe. Every move is to hide from the cost, and I don't think she can run much longer. Okay, you wanted more, but I'm telling you now, this part doesn't feel like a story anymore. It feels like I'm confessing to something I shouldn't even understand, something I was never supposed to see. Like my brain isn't wired to hold what I found. I'm shaking writing this down, but I need to get it out, because I think it's coming from me now too. After I read that forum post about the Velvet Door, something inside me snapped. I don't even know what it was. Curiosity, rage, fear. All I knew was that I needed to find out what my mom actually did. And more importantly, how the hell do you sell your soul on the dark web through an iPad? It sounded like horror movie nonsense, but I'd seen too much to write it off as fake anymore. So, I started digging. Not on Google. Google won't show you anything real. I went back into the Tor network. Layers deep. Sites that don't even have names. Just long strings of characters like G4, KT3, E7, V6, Onion. Places where the screen flickers and sometimes your webcam turns on for no reason. I followed broken links, dead forums, even had to join a private Discord server called The Archived Teeth. Most of it was fake. Creepy videos, wannabe cult LARPs, edgelord nonsense. But one night, I got a message. "You're looking for the door. You've already opened it." That was all it said. Attached was a file. No extension. Just a black square icon named _velvet. I should have deleted it. I should have wiped the hard drive. Instead, I opened it. My screen went black. Not crashed. Like intentionally black. Like a film fade. Then a line of text typed itself out in white. "Do you wish to trade what you love for what you fear?" My mouse stopped working. Keyboard too. And then my webcam light flicked on. I just stared. Frozen. Then it showed me. Her. My mom. Sitting on the carpet of a house I didn't recognize. Different furniture. Different decor. Must have been years ago. She was younger. Crying. Her hands were shaking as she opened the exact same black website the one I was now on. Velvet door, and she said it, out loud. I offer my blood, my soul, and my first light to keep them safe. Please, take whatever it costs. Then the camera on the screen zoomed in, right into the darkness of her pupils, until it was just black. Then it said, "Welcome, Jacob. The door accepts you." I screamed so loud, I actually bit my tongue. Blood ran down my throat. I slammed my laptop shut and threw it across the room. It didn't break. Nothing breaks when you need it to. That's how this whole thing works. After that, things got worse. Not just eerie. I'm talking brutal. 3 days later, my dog was dead. Not like hit by a car. Number I found him in the kitchen. His body was completely drained of blood. No wounds, no mess. Just a cold, dry husk. Like someone, or something, drank him from the inside. The bowl of water next to him was untouched, but there were fingerprints on the edge of it. Long ones. Too many knuckles. I didn't sleep for 2 nights. I started locking my door. I didn't leave my room unless I had to. But it didn't help, because it came anyway. It was 2:47 a.m. when I woke up to the sound of someone scratching at my window. Again, 3rd floor, no balcony, just glass. I turned over slowly, heart hammering in my chest, and I saw this thing. It looked like a man, but only if you'd never actually seen one before. Too tall, head tilted at a 90-degree angle. Its face was perfectly still, eyes like static, lips sewn together with wire. Actual wire, copper and frayed. It had its hands, all 4 of them, flat against the glass. But here's the worst part. Its skin looked like my mom's, like someone had taken her flesh, peeled it off like a hoodie, and stapled it onto a mannequin. And I swear to God, it smiled, not with its mouth. That was sealed shut, but with its eyes. And then it whispered, in my mom's voice, "This is what you wanted to know, right? The cost. You opened the door too." I blacked out, like genuinely passed out from terror. Next thing I knew, I was in the living room, middle of the floor, 5:13 a.m. All the furniture had been moved into a ring, just like the ritual. The TV was on, but only static. The velvet door sight was open on the screen. I never connected it to the smart TV. I ran upstairs and threw up. My nose started bleeding, and it wouldn't stop for an hour. My mom never even asked where I'd been, but when I looked her in the eyes that morning, I saw it. She knew. After that night, we moved again, but this time, something changed. My dad didn't come. No explanation, no argument. He was just gone. One night he was watching YouTube on the couch. The next morning, his shoes were still by the door, car in the driveway, wallet in the kitchen, but no sign of him. No police. My mom just said, "He didn't come with us." We left for Savannah, Georgia the next day. I haven't seen him since. But once, when I opened the velvet door file again, yeah, I know, I'm stupid. It showed me a live stream of a warehouse. In it, tied to a chair, was a man, bloody, twitching. It was my dad. There were things moving in the dark around him. Tall, wet-sounding creatures with mismatched faces. Some had mouths in their stomachs. One had a television for a head. They didn't speak, just hissed. Then one of them stepped forward with a long blade made of mirrors. It leaned down and whispered into my dad's ear, then looked directly at me through the screen and pointed. "Your turn." I slammed the laptop shut again, but this time the screen didn't go black. Instead, my reflection stayed there, even after the lid was closed, grinning. I don't know how much longer I have before we move again. My mom's been packing, even though we just got here 3 weeks ago. She's not saying anything this time, but every night I hear her in the basement, talking to it, begging it, pleading, offering things, names, mine. It's been 2 weeks since we moved again. This time, she didn't tell me where we were going. I just woke up one morning with duct tape across my mouth, my wrists zip-tied, and my feet barefoot on a motel carpet that smelled like old blood and lemon-scented disinfectant. When I sat up, I saw the name on the wall. One of those cheap decorative motel signs carved into fake wood. It read, "Welcome to Vickery. Population 421. I googled it. No results. I checked Apple Maps, Google Maps, even used OpenStreetMap. Nothing. This town doesn't exist. The streets look like the 1970s swallowed them whole and spat them back out half rotten. There's a single McDonald's, but the logo is off. Like the golden arches are stretched vertically, way too tall, like bones pulled from their sockets. I walked in once. Everyone inside was staring at the counter. Not the menu, not the employees, just the counter. Silent, not blinking. Kids, old people, a mailman, all of them in some kind of trance. I stood behind them and waited. Nobody moved. Then, out of the back room, this employee walked out. And I'm calling it an employee only because it was wearing the uniform. But its skin was grey, too smooth, no pores. Its eyes were painted on, actually painted, like someone had drawn them with a Sharpie directly onto its face. And it knew me. "You're late," it said in my mom's voice. I ran out, back to the motel, back to that flickering light above our door. My mom was inside, whispering to her laptop again. Same circle, same dead-eyed stare. I threw a chair at her this time. I'm not proud of that, but I snapped. I screamed, demanded answers. She looked up at me like I was interrupting a commercial break. "We're not in the real world anymore, Jacob." That's all she said. So here's where it gets worse. There's no school here, no cops, no internet. My phone connects to some weird network called VM_NET, and every website redirects to a blank black screen that says, "Stay still. They'll leave if you stay still." My mom hasn't spoken a full sentence in days, just mutters things like, "The trade was fair, and he's watching through the glass now." I hear scratching at the bathroom mirror at night. Sometimes the faucet turns on by itself, and the water comes out red. Not just red-colored, thick, syrupy, metallic. I smelled it once. It was blood. Human. I'm not guessing. I know because I cut my finger with a safety pin and compared the smell. Identical. 3 nights ago, I left the motel after my mom fell asleep mid-ritual. I walked to the edge of town. No cars, no animals, just street lamps stretching endlessly in both directions. And then, I saw a building, a church, but not like any church I've ever seen. The cross was upside down, made of actual teeth, not stylized, not carved. Real human teeth, jammed into rotten wood, gums still attached in places. I walked inside. The air felt heavy. Not metaphorically, I mean literally heavier, like my lungs were filling with cement. There were rows of pews filled with mannequins. Some were moving slightly, as if they were breathing, and at the altar was a book, bound in eyelids, not skin, eyelids, hundreds of them, stitched together like a quilt, all blinking independently. I opened it anyway. The pages were filled with drawings, diagrams of rituals, names written in reverse Latin, and on the last page there was a handprint, small, like a kid's. Underneath it, in scrawled handwriting, "This is the last way back." That's when I heard it, from behind me, my dad's voice. "Jacob, you weren't supposed to come here." I turned. He was standing in the doorway. Only, it wasn't him. His skin was sagging, like a costume that didn't quite fit. His mouth was too wide, filled with dozens of teeth, all baby teeth, grinning way too wide. His eyes were holes, literal holes, like someone had scooped them out with a melon baller, black tunnels, and they were dripping. He stepped toward me, and the ground shook with each footstep. I bolted, ran back through the town, past the fake McDonald's, past the fake people standing still under the flickering street lights, back to the motel. I locked myself in the bathroom. That's where I found the other me, in the mirror. Not my reflection, something else, something that looked like me, but the proportions were off. Too tall, mouth too thin, eyes pure white. It smiled at me and whispered, "You can't untrade what's already paid." I covered the mirror with towels, duct taped the corners, but I still hear it laughing at night. Last night, I found a ritual in the book I took from the church, a reversal, a way to undo the soul-bonded protection. It requires one thing, the original summoner, my mom. It said, "To unbind the trade, you must return the traded." I confronted her, told her everything, told her I knew. She didn't even argue, just stared at me like a dog about to be put down. And then she said something I'll never forget. "I sold my soul to save you, but I didn't realize they wanted your future, not your life. They've already eaten parts of it." I asked what that meant. She wouldn't answer. So now I have a choice. If I do the reversal ritual, she dies. Like, truly dies. Not just soul dead, body gone, erased from reality. The book says she will cease to have ever existed in memory, bloodline, or record. Her face will be removed from all photos, her name forgotten, her fingerprints erased. I will become the child of no one. But if I don't, I become them, the people who stand under flickering lights, the ones who don't blink, the ones who stare too long, the ones who smile too wide. Because the trade is rotating now, the ritual needs a new host. It's picking me. There's one final line in the book, carved, not written. The door closes behind you, always. And I think I'm already halfway through it. There is no safety anymore, not in light, not in sound, not even in my own skin. I'm writing this from a public library in a real town, one that does exist. I hitchhiked out of Vickery last night. I don't remember how I left. The road just spat me out, like the town itself was done with me. But I remember everything else, especially the ritual. It started with the book, the eyelid-bound book I stole from the altar in that false church. I didn't tell you what else was in it last time, not all of it, because I didn't want to believe I'd have to use it. But now I've read it cover to cover. It's written in something like a mix of Latin, Aramaic, and bad dreams. That's the only way I can describe the way the letters move when you read them. You don't just read the book, you absorb it. It climbs down your throat and grows there. I memorized the reversal ritual. It's called the Null Kin Unwinding. It requires a circle made from the ashes of your own memories, a lock of hair from the soul trader, a photograph of the traded me before the deal was made, and a tool called the Maw Key, a serrated blade that can only be made using a bone that has never been named. Yeah, that one broke me too. But the book had one page, taped shut, with skin, not leather, not glue, actual skin, thin, pale, stretched. It had writing under it, like a hidden message meant for when you were ready. I pulled it off. It peeled like sunburnt flesh. The skin screeched as it came off. Not the book, the skin, like it was alive, like it was in pain. And underneath, a message. If you do this, you will see behind the door. You will see the world the way they do. You cannot unsee it. You cannot come back. I did it anyway. I started the reversal at exactly 3:33 a.m. That's when the veil is thinnest, according to the book. I burned the only photo I had of myself as a baby, one from a box my mom kept locked in her suitcase. I stole her hair from the shower drain. And the ashes? I made those from burning my journals, my childhood drawings, and the blanket my grandmother knitted for me before she died. It was like incinerating my own heartbeat. But the hardest part was the bone. I wandered the outskirts of Vickery for days, looking for an animal or person or thing that had no name. Eventually, I found a grave marked only with the symbol from the velvet door, a stretched vertical infinity loop carved into stone with a jagged line through it. No name, no dates, just that mark. I dug it up. I wish I hadn't. Inside wasn't a corpse. It was a screaming bundle of light, like a fetus made of headlights and bone. When I reached in, the screaming went into me, not into my ears, into my mouth, nose, eyes, like it was filling every inch of me with its last breath. But I found the bone. It pulsed like a dying star. I carved the mole key that night with a piece of sharpened mirror and my own spit as polish. I waited until my mom was asleep. Then I placed everything in the circle. The book said not to speak the words. You have to think them. Say them in your blood. So I bit down on my tongue until it ruptured. I let the blood fill my mouth, then swallowed it, and imagined the words. Undo the tether. Untwine the bone. Bring back the light at the cost of the shadow. I expected thunder, flames, screaming. What I got was silence, complete, utter, absence, like the world hit mute. Then something in the wall behind me opened, not physically, just open, like space had unzipped itself, and out stepped me, but older, taller, thinner, hollow. My eyes were gone, mouth stitched shut, but I knew it was me. The same face, same scar on the eyebrow from when I fell off my bike in 4th grade. It stepped into the circle, nodded. Then it reached into my mother's chest without touching her. No blood, no breaking skin, just a hand passing through. She gasped, started convulsing, screaming, then laughing, then screaming while laughing. Her skin turned inside out. Her eyes exploded, but there was no blood, just black moths that poured out and crawled across the walls. She started to float. Her body contorted into a star shape, arms bent at impossible angles, mouth wide open, head turning in slow 360s like a camera rig. Then she imploded. No gore, just gone, like a VHS tape getting fast forwarded to static. And in her place, a hole in the air, a door. Velvet, yes, but it pulsed like it was alive, breathing, moaning. You could see flesh underneath the wood. It opened, but not outward, inward, like a throat. And behind it, I saw them, rows, endless rows, tall, wet-skinned humanoids with TV heads. Some had animal skulls. Some were children walking backward. All of them were weaving, literally weaving human bodies into tapestries of nerves and mouths. A giant loom made of spines and fingers stretched across a blood-red sky. They looked at me. They didn't blink, just stared. And then they smiled. Thousands of mouths forming on their arms, stomachs, chests, all grinning. One raised a hand and snapped its fingers. Suddenly, I was in a hallway, pitch black, a single bulb above me, flickering, and at the end of the hallway was a door, my bedroom door, from when I was a kid. I walked forward, opened it, and inside was me, but not hollow, not stitched, just me, as a child, sitting on the floor, staring at a dead dog, the one that died in Tulsa. He looked up at me and said, "She didn't save you, she sold you." Then his face split in half, not a cut, a grin. I woke up back in the motel, covered in black ash, the circle burned into the floor. The book was gone, so was my mom, and every photo of her, blank, every memory card, corrupted. Her number doesn't exist. Facebook, Instagram, email, gone, like she was never real. But I know she was, because last night I looked in the mirror, and for a second she was standing behind me, smiling. That's where I'll tell you what followed me out, what I see now every time I close my eyes, and why you should never, under any circumstances, search for the velvet door. Even reading this might have been enough to mark you. This is the last part I'll ever write. Not because I don't want to keep going, because I can't. Because something is watching me through the screen right now, and I know the second I hit post, I'll stop being part of your world. But you asked for the end, so I'll give it to you. Just remember, you begged for this. After the ritual, I thought it was over. I thought I was free. I thought tearing my mother out of time, erasing her from every photo, every memory, every trace of existence, would untangle the threads she tied to that thing, that door. But what I didn't understand until too late is that she wasn't the price. I was, always was, and all I did was rip open the debt early. After the motel, I wandered for weeks. I slept in Greyhound stations, under highway bridges, in abandoned fast food joints that still smelled like deep fryers and old oil and something rotting in the ceiling. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard it, that wet whispering, like a centipede crawling across a brain. Sometimes I'd open my phone just to see something familiar. Instagram, YouTube, Discord, but they were all wrong now. The content had changed. Every thumbnail, black screen with a single word in white text. Come back. I tapped one. It was a video of me sleeping, filmed from outside a bus station window. I checked the channel name. There wasn't one. No likes, no views, no description, just me. And something standing behind me in the reflection of the glass. I smashed my phone that night. Didn't matter. It kept ringing anyway. I'd be walking through some quiet small town, someplace like Butcher's Ridge, Montana, or Darrow Hollow, Texas, and payphones would start ringing as I passed them. You know the kind. Rusted, cracked receivers, covered in bugs. Once, I picked one up. Big mistake. The voice on the other end wasn't my mom, wasn't me. It was my voice, but recorded wrong, played in reverse, slowed down, glitched like a cassette, melting in a microwave. And then it said, "You opened the door. Now you're part of the hallway." I started to forget things after that. Little things first. Birthdays, names, what my own handwriting looked like. Then bigger things, like my last name, my reflection. I'd pass a mirror in a gas station and not recognize the person looking back. Once, I tried writing my name on a piece of paper just to ground myself. My hand wouldn't move. It kept writing, traded over and over again, even though I was trying to write Jacob. And every time I blinked, there were more scratches under the skin of my arms, like something inside me was tallying the time, like I was on a clock I couldn't see. Then the dreams started, except they weren't dreams. I'd wake up with mud on my feet, thorns in my mouth, my bedsheets smelling like ozone and burnt hair. In one of them, I was back in Vickery, only it wasn't abandoned anymore. It was full of people wearing my face, thousands of them, all smiling, all staring at a black sun hanging in the sky, pulsing like a heart ready to explode. A voice spoke from the sky. One word, replicated. You don't get out of the trade. That's the part the book didn't explain. There's no real reversal. You can unbind the contract, sure, but what you've seen, what you've been shown, marks you. The door doesn't just open once. It opens again, and again, and again, until you forget it was ever closed. And I think that's what it wants. Not your soul, not your blood, your memory. Because once you forget who you were, you become one of them. I made it to Chicago 3 days ago. Found a public library open 24/7. I thought I was safe here. Light, people, civilization. But it's worse. Way worse. The people here aren't real. They move, sure. They talk, but they're off, like puppets on a delay. I asked the librarian for help logging in, and she smiled at me. Too wide. Way too wide. Her gums were mirrors, like glass. And when she blinked, I saw another face beneath hers. Something stitched into her skin. I ran to the bathroom. I puked black thread. Not bile. Thread. Coated in spit. Tied into the shape of my face. That's when I knew. I'm not in the world anymore. I never left the door. It followed me. Or worse, I brought it with me. Last night, I went into the basement of this place. Thought maybe I could sleep without being watched. Big mistake. There was someone already down there, wearing my mom's skin. But it wasn't her. It was the door. It had taken her face, her body, her voice, her mannerisms. But she was wrong. Jittery. Too perfect. Like AI generated her from my worst memories. She opened her mouth to speak, and a third arm came out, reached toward me, and she said, "You never left. The door is your mother now." I ran. I made it back to the surface. But I knew then, the library, the towns, even this account, it's all part of the hallway. You're reading this, thinking you're outside it, but you're not. You're standing at the edge, and it sees you. Every time you look into a screen, you're staring into its eye. Every reflection, every camera lens, every FaceTime call you hang up from, it's watching, it's learning you, and me. I don't know how much longer I have. Not before I die. Before I become him. The version of me that stood in the ritual circle. The taller one. The stitched mouth one. The one that came through the door before me. If you hear a scratching at your window tonight, or if your phone buzzes with a number that has too many digits, or if your mom says something in a voice that doesn't quite match, don't open it. Don't answer. Don't speak. And for the love of everything you are, do not go looking for the velvet door, because the second you do, it opens and you become the hallway. The door is real. It never closes. And now, you've seen it too. Good luck. I am a dark web serial killer. My next target is another serial killer, which turns out to be my father. Okay, this story is gonna sound fake as hell. I know it. If I wasn't the one who lived through it, I'd be calling BS too. But everything I'm about to say happened, word for word, and I've got receipts. This isn't one of those creepy neighbor or haunted doll stories. Nah, this is real deep web, pitch black. I should probably go to therapy stuff. For privacy reasons, I won't drop my real name. You can just call me Nate. I'm 24 now, but this started when I was 19. I wasn't always, how do I put it, this dark. I didn't wake up one day and decide, hey, I think I'll become a serial killer who hunts other serial killers on the dark web. But life has a funny way of dragging you into the gutter. And it all started with a live stream I wasn't supposed to watch. Back in college, I was a CS major with a sleep disorder and a twisted sense of curiosity. Like, while most people my age were doom scrolling on TikTok or flexing their vacay on Instagram, I was reading about onion routing, VPN chains, and how to reach the second layer of the dark web without getting traced. I wasn't looking for anything too messed up at first, mostly just forums, abandoned marketplaces, and the occasional conspiracy board. Think 4chan, but if it was run by demons with trust issues. One night, I was chilling in my dorm, eating a stale Starbucks sandwich at 2 a.m., browsing Reddit. My roommate was passed out. The room smelled like Monster Energy and stress, and I was already 4 tabs deep into some hidden wiki knockoff. That's when I found it. A plain site. No flashy graphics, no login screen, just a black background and one line of white text. The feed starts in 6 minutes. I thought it was a joke at first, like some ARG stuff or a bootleg horror project, but my curiosity got the better of me. So, I waited. 6 minutes passed. Then, boom, stream goes live. No intro, no sound, just night vision footage of what looked like an old, moldy basement. The kind of place you'd expect to find in one of those old-school true crime Netflix docs. The camera shook for a second, then stabilized. And that's when I saw him. The guy in the mask. Not like a ski mask or balaclava. I mean a full-on leather stitched face mask, like something out of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but weirder. He stood in front of the camera holding a cardboard sign that said, "Live, real, no fakes, 1 hour only." And then he walked off screen. What followed? It messed with my head for days. The rest of the stream showed him dragging someone into frame. A man, middle-aged, gagged, tied to a rusty chair with zip ties so tight they cut into his skin. I won't describe every detail because, yeah, this is no sleep and not the deep web itself, but just know it was real. Too real, not acted. The screaming, the way he begged for his kids, the sloppy, brutal method the masked guy used, it all screamed reality. I didn't sleep for 2 days. But here's the part that changed everything. At the end of the stream, the screen went black. Then a single message appeared. Who's next? Suggestions open in the thread. Most voted Jack's next victim. Below it was a chat room style thread. Anons were commenting names, usernames, addresses, even links to social media accounts. Some had photos pulled straight from Facebook or Instagram. Others had deep dives, doxed info, full work history, even school schedules. One dude posted a girl's OnlyFans and claimed she was next. People upvoted like it was Reddit gold. It was disgusting. But what caught my eye was one comment that simply said, "Let's flip the game. Take out a bad guy. This dude's a real piece of trash. Multiple bodies, never caught. You want proof? Check his dump." Attached was a link to another hidden .onion site. Now, this is where I made a choice I never thought I'd make. I clicked. The site was a dump of info on a guy named BL, real name redacted, address, work history, photos, but more importantly, trophy pics, dozens of them. I won't describe them in detail, but they were post-event photos, blurred faces, all tagged with dates and locations. And get this, some of those dates matched unsolved cases I remembered from news reports back home. That's when I felt something shift in me. Like, up until then, I was just a voyeur, some college kid watching the madness. But now I had a target. I knew where he lived. I knew when he worked. I even had a blurry face shot from a doorbell camera. He looked average, boring even, like your neighbor who always takes out the trash shirtless and has a weed problem. And somehow, that made it worse. I knew he didn't deserve to breathe. So I made a plan. The first time I killed someone, it didn't feel the way movies make it seem. There was no epic music, no slow motion, no dramatic lost words. It was quiet, surgical. I followed him after work. He stopped at a gas station just outside of Orlando. I was in the rental I paid for in cash, with no GPS or phone. When he went inside, I slashed his tires. When he got out to check, I approached with a mechanic's jumpsuit and a fake name tag. Told him I saw something leaking. He knelt down to check, and I slit his throat with a box cutter. One move. He gargled, tried to scream. Then, nothing. Just like that, I became the thing I was trying to stop. But here's the thing. I didn't feel guilty. Not even a little. Because I knew what he'd done. The kids, the women, the bodies. And in some sick way, I felt like I was cleaning up the dark web's trash. That's when I started doing it more. One by one. Every time the stream suggested someone who turned out to be real evil, I took it upon myself to get there first. I'd research them, track them, and if it all checked out, gone. I even got a nickname in one of the deeper forums, the Cleaner. They thought I was some legend. But then, last week, everything flipped upside down. I found a new post, another name, another victim. It said, "This man has over 30 confirmed kills. He's never been caught. Operates under the name Crimson Vulture. Last seen in Nevada." The post included photos, security footage, a blurry pic of him from a gas station in the middle of nowhere. And the thing that made my blood turn to ice, the man in the picture, was my dad. You ever feel your soul leave your body? Like you're still breathing, your heart still beating, but something in you just breaks? That's what it felt like when I saw my dad's face on that post. That unmistakable jawline, that half-arsed smirk, like he was in on something the rest of the world would never understand. The last time I saw him, I was 13. He walked out with a duffel bag and a promise he never intended to keep. "I'll be back, champ." But he never came back. And now he was Crimson Vulture, a name whispered in deep forums, a legend in live streams that got passed around like ghost stories. Except this one was real. And it was my father. My vision tunneled. I spent the next 36 hours with no sleep, cross-referencing every unsolved case tied to Crimson Vulture. The reports, the photos, the locations. I even found old abandoned social profiles with pieces of him scattered through anonymous usernames. He was smart. Burner identities, encrypted phones, no fingerprints. But there were always traces, tiny digital fingerprints that only someone like me, someone who'd become what I had, could follow. Everything pointed to a ghost town outside Tonopah, Nevada. Population, 50. The kind of place where people still use rotary phones, and Walmart is considered the city. Satellite view on Google Maps showed an old, decrepit auto shop on the edge of town. Boarded windows, dirt lot, nothing but desert and silence for miles. That's where I went. No plane, no rental. I stole a car. Black Honda Civic from a Shell station in Arizona. No plates. Gloves on. Hoodie tight. I drove 12 hours straight through the desert with a cooler full of protein bars and 2 jugs of gasoline. I didn't stop. Not once. The whole way, my mind kept playing this one memory on loop. Christmas Eve, 2008. Me, sitting in the living room in footy pajamas, waiting for him to come home. My mom pacing the kitchen with a wine glass she never refilled because it never emptied. At exactly 11:47 p.m., the phone rang. She picked up, said nothing, then just dropped the phone and whispered, "He's not coming back." She never explained. She never had to, because a week later, a body was found outside an old motel in Oregon. Woman, no ID, mutilated beyond recognition. News never linked it to my dad, but I remember the look on my mom's face when the report came on. That was the first night I heard her scream in her sleep. Back to the present. I arrived at the shop just before midnight. Moon was low. Sky was blood-washed with desert haze. I parked 2 blocks down, approached on foot. Every step I took made my stomach turn in on itself. I broke in through the back. Inside, it was like a museum of death. Old tools covered in dust, broken sinks, chains hanging from beams. But what got me wasn't what was on display. It was what was underneath. There was a trapdoor beneath a pile of tires, hidden like an afterthought. I pried it open. It reeked, like old meat and burned hair. I climbed down into darkness, flashlight in hand, and what I found down there was not human. It was him. He stood there in the dark. No mask, no weapon, just a cup of gas station coffee and a voice like shattered glass. "Took you long enough. Let me be clear. This wasn't a reunion. This wasn't an I missed you son moment. This was a showdown between 2 monsters, one made by the system, the other born into it. And he wasn't surprised to see me. You followed the trail. That's good," he said, sipping his coffee like we were catching up after a baseball game. "I was hoping it'd be you." My fist clenched. He lit a cigarette with one hand and pointed to the wall behind him with the other. There were photos, hundreds, maybe thousands, all strung up with red yarn and tape like some deranged FBI profiler's wet dream. Victims, crime scenes, newspaper clippings, but at the center of it all was me. Photos of me. Screenshots from deep web threads I thought were anonymous. Images from street cameras. One of me eating at a McDonald's in Utah, something I did 2 weeks ago. One was from behind. One was from above, like a drone shot. He'd been watching me for years. "Why?" I asked, throat dry, stomach acid burning. He exhaled a plume of smoke that felt like it burned my soul. "Because you're the only one who understands. You became what I was always trying to protect you from. And now that you're here, we can finish it together." That's when he pulled back the curtain. Behind him was the real gallery. 13 bodies, hanging, preserved, some with eyes sewn open, some missing limbs, all with their tongues cut out and placed in glass jars beside them, labeled with dates and locations. It was like a museum of his victories. Each victim had one thing in common. They were all predators, child abusers, rapists, traffickers, real monsters. "I don't kill innocent people," he said, almost proud. "But I don't follow the rules. You know how the world works, son. The law's too slow. So I became the law. I wanted to kill him right then, but I couldn't move. My legs were locked, not in fear, but in confusion. Because deep down, in some sick part of me. I agreed, until he showed me the last room. It was a cold chamber, steel walls, one flickering bulb. In the middle was a chair, and in that chair was my mother. I couldn't speak. Her face was pale, her lips cracked, IVs in her arm, a feeding tube. She was alive. Barely. Her eyes opened halfway, looked at me, and they didn't register who I was, like she was stuck in a permanent loop of pain. "She found me," he said, his voice suddenly colder. Started asking questions, got too close. I couldn't let her go, but I couldn't kill her either. So I preserved her. I dropped to my knees. My mouth opened, but nothing came out. No scream, no sob, just air. Hollow, empty air. And then he handed me a scalpel. "Finish it," he said. "Put her out of her misery. You're one of us now. We clean. That's what we do." I took the blade. My hand shook. She looked at me again. This time, I think she recognized me. A single tear ran down her cheek. No words, no begging, just that one tear. And I did it. Quick, clean. She didn't suffer. The silence afterward was worse than any scream. But that wasn't the end. After I stood up, he smiled, said something I'll never forget. "Now you're ready. Now we become gods." I didn't respond. I pulled the gun from my waistband and shot him twice in the stomach. He staggered, laughed, actually laughed, then collapsed to the ground, bleeding out beside the monster gallery he'd spent a decade building. His last words? "You'll become worse than me." I left the bodies there, lit the place on fire, watched it burn from a hilltop as the sky turned orange behind me. No sirens, no neighbors, just the sound of flame-eaten secrets. And now I'm on the run, but I'm not hiding, because something inside me woke up in that basement, something I can't put back to sleep. I still hunt, still clean, but now I know where I come from, and I know exactly what I'm becoming. Some nights, when I finally fall asleep, usually around 5 or 6 a.m., I hear them whispering. Not voices, exactly. More like rusted wires being dragged across my brain, garbled, wet static behind my ears. And it always says the same thing. In some choking, clicking language, my dreams translate into one sentence. "You were chosen." I thought killing my father would end everything, but that was never the end. That was the door. After I torched the death chamber in Tonopah, I hit the road again. No plan, no direction, just fire in my lungs, and whatever part of me was still human clinging to survival. But there was a problem. See, someone had seen me. Not the cops, not neighbors, them. 3 days after I burned a shop, I got a message. Not through a phone, mine was ditched miles ago, but through my laptop. One I'd hardwired with 6 layers of VPNs, modified OS, booted only through Tails. Something that shouldn't even exist online found me anyway. It was just a .txt file, dumped into my deep web cache. "You passed the first trial. The others are waiting. Hotel Eden, room 305, Prague. Come alone." Below it, a string of code that, when decrypted, led to video footage of me killing my father. Angle. Overhead. There were no cameras in that room. I checked. I know. So how the hell did they have footage of it? 2 weeks later, I was in Prague. Fake passport. Cash only. Bleached hair. Black contacts. Burner SIM card taped under my tongue. I stayed in a 3rd-floor hostel for 3 days, watching the entrance to Hotel Eden from a nearby cafe, like a junkie waiting for a dealer. It was wrong. Everything about it felt off. The hotel was one of those old Soviet-style buildings. Red carpets, fluorescent lighting that hummed like a dying fly, A concierge who never blinked. And no guests. None. I watched for 3 days. No one came or left. Just the same black van that pulled up at 2:17 a.m. and left exactly 9 minutes later. Every night. So on the 4th night, I walked in. The elevator buttons didn't light up when pressed. It took me directly to room 305. Inside was the archive. Picture a massive church with no cross, only meat hooks hanging from the rafters, floor-to-ceiling metal filing cabinets, dusty television sets stacked on one another, flickering endless loops of black and white footage, snuff reels, real ones, projected on repeat. No sound, just the brutal hum of dying life. A man stood in the middle. I say man, but he didn't feel human. His face was entirely wrapped in gauze, stained at the mouth with something black and sticky. He wore a priest's collar and surgical gloves. His breath wheezed like something boiling. And in that silence, I heard the door behind me lock automatically. He spoke in a voice so dry it sounded pre-recorded. Your father was our tithe. You are the harvest. He pulled open a drawer labeled the left hand. Inside, photos of children, thousands of them, everyone tagged with acquired, saved, or ascended. My legs buckled. The gauze-faced man continued. He was our shepherd. You are the blade. You've killed, yes, but not yet for us. And then he said something that's never left me since. You are not a killer. You are a ritual. Here's what I learned that night. What he told me. What I've uncovered since. And what I wish to God I could unknow. There's a cult that lives between the cracks of the internet. Not a religion. Not a bunch of freaks sacrificing goats in the woods. No, this is different. They call themselves the Spine, and they've existed long before the dark web, before the internet, before borders. They don't believe in God. They believe in a hole where God used to be, a hollow space beneath our reality, a reverse creation where the dead aren't gone. They're watching, hungry, waiting to be fed. The world's oldest network of violence, a global lineage of blood archivists. And they don't kill for pleasure. They kill to feed something. My father was one of them. He wasn't just some serial killer with a taste for vigilante justice. That was the cover. A convenient narrative. The truth. He was collecting souls. Each one catalogued, preserved, marked. Those jars of tongues I saw back in Tonopah. Not trophies. Tags. Ritual identifiers. Each victim was part of an offering. But here's the kicker. I wasn't supposed to kill him. I was supposed to replace him. And I failed the first test. Not by killing him, but by letting my mother go. They said she was the final piece. The mirror of innocence. The flesh tether. Their term for the anchor that keeps killers bound to this side of the veil. Ending her wasn't mercy, it was permission. And now I was open. The rest of the week was a blur of psychological vivisection. Every night, they'd inject something behind my ear, some thick, cold fluid, and drag me into a room of mirrors. Some days, the reflections were wrong. My face twisted, peeled, grinned back at me while I stood expressionless. Other days, I wasn't in the mirror at all. They called these the veil tests. One night, I woke up with pins in my eyelids. Couldn't blink. Forced to watch live footage of executions from across the world. Sometimes I recognized the locations. A train station in Berlin. A McDonald's bathroom in Texas. A Starbucks warehouse in Singapore. All staged. All ritual. Each one performed by someone wearing a red blindfold. They were part of the Spine's inner sanctum, the harvestman. The footage always ended with the same phrase, whispered in reverse over the PA. The left hand feeds, the right hand burns. Day 9. They took me to the bottom of the hotel, not the basement, below the basement. It was a corridor of ash and wire. Hanging light bulbs swung slowly, like they were breathing. At the very end was a massive door made entirely of teeth, human, stained, wired together like macabre coral. It opened on its own. Inside, cold, steel walls, circular room. 12 people stood in a ring, faceless under black veils. In the center, on a table, was a child, maybe 10 years old, unmoving, eyes taped open, hooked to a machine that pumped a black fluid into his veins. And they said, "If you are him, do it." They handed me the blade. Again. But this time, it was different. Because this kid, he looked exactly like me. Not kind of. Exactly. Every freckle. Same scar on the eyebrow I got when I fell off my bike in 2nd grade. Same chipped tooth. It was me. And the thing is, he looked alive. Afraid. Tears running sideways from the corners of his eyes. Unable to move. Breathing shallow. I looked at the blade, looked at the circle, and I said, "I've already killed him once." Then I dropped the blade. Everything went black. I woke up on a cargo ship 2 days later. No passport, no ID, just a note sewn into my jacket. "You failed the ritual, but you succeeded in awakening it." That was 3 months ago. Since then, I've been hunted across 6 countries. Woke up in a shallow grave in Ukraine. Found my face carved into a dead man's chest in Iceland. Got cornered in a Tokyo alley by 3 kids in school uniforms who spoke in my mother's voice. They're coming for me. Or maybe through me. I don't know anymore. All I know is I'm not alone in this body now. Sometimes I'll walk by mirrors and catch something looking back at me. Something taller, stretched, mouth filled with hands. It doesn't blink. It just waits. And the weirdest part? I think it's proud of me. I travel to the origin, an abandoned underground city beneath Rome, known only as the spine's root. The truth about what feeds the network is worse than death. Let me know if you're ready, because now we go deeper than God ever dared look. There are places beneath this world that were never meant to be mapped, not by governments, not by explorers, not even by God. They don't appear on blueprints, in records, or on Google Earth. They breathe beneath our feet, deeper than bone. And down there, past the bones of empires, below the catacombs of dead saints and war criminals, is a place called the Root, the birthplace of the spine. And I found it, not by choice. They dragged me back. It started 3 weeks after I escaped the cargo ship off the coast of Istanbul. I thought I was free, but every night I'd wake up with ash in my mouth and blood under my fingernails. No memory, no explanation, just absence. One morning, I found a map stitched into the lining of the coat I'd been left with. Human hair thread, dyed red, embedded into rotten silk. A crude diagram of tunnels beneath Rome, but older than any catacomb I'd ever read about. Older than Roman. Older than human. In the center was a single phrase in Latin, burned into the fabric with bone ash. Deus secidit hic. God fell here. I bought a shovel, a flashlight, and 2 bottles of antipsychotics I never intended to take. I entered through the crypt of the Capuchin monks. Tourist spot, right? Instagram influencers love that place. Hundreds of skulls lining the walls, arranged in sickening little patterns like floral wallpaper for psychopaths. But what the tourists don't know is that one of the skulls isn't real. Bottom left. Room 3, right behind the FEMA chandelier. I pushed it, heard a click. The wall opened, and I began to descend. It wasn't a staircase. It was a throat, spiraling down, wet stone, pulsing with something beneath the surface. I swear I could feel it breathing. Every step echoed back like it was remembering me. I counted 747 steps before the stone turned to bone. Not metaphorically, literal bone. Femurs and ribs and teeth packed together into the walls, the floor, the ceiling, like some ancient titan had been ground into architecture. And in the silence, I began to hear the chanting, not loud, not words, just vibration, like 10,000 people humming in unison through wet mouths full of water and wire. My flashlight flickered. I started seeing shadows move in ways shadows shouldn't, crawling upward against gravity. Eventually, the tunnel opened into a massive chamber. And when I say massive, I don't mean big, I mean impossibly large. It looked like the inside of a nuclear reactor, but carved by hand and lined with skin. I could see fingerprints in the wall. In the center was a column, twisting upward, black, covered in carvings that hurt to look at. The kind of patterns that moved when you blinked. The kind of marks that left bruises on your thoughts. Wrapped around that column was a spine, a literal spinal cord the size of a subway train, black, fleshy, twitching, still alive. That's when I realized this place wasn't just called the Root. It was a root, the root of something living, and we were just the fruit it coughed up. They were waiting for me, of course, the inner 12. You never see their faces, only the masks, each one carved from the skull of the person they first killed, worn for eternity. One of them wore the face of a child, another, 2 faces sewn together with barbed wire through the mouth. They stood in a ring, same as before, but this time, something else was with them. Inside the spine, it pulsed like a heartbeat. It watched me with something deeper than eyes. It felt like the sun was staring at me from underground. Then the ritual began. No words were spoken. They just started peeling their skin off. Not all of it, just pieces, strips, fingers, ears, a tongue here, a nose there, tossed into a pit of fire in the center of the chamber. The flames turned black, rising but not giving off heat. And from those flames came hands, not human, too long, too many fingers, pale as wax, twitching like puppets strung to a dying star. Each hand reached out and touched me, one on the forehead, one under the ribs, one on the back of my spine. And that's when I saw it. Not in the fire, not in the hands, inside me. I wasn't alone, hadn't been for months. There was something inside my body, growing, spreading, not a parasite, not a tumor, a second consciousness, a twin, not born, but breathed, a copy of me made out of memory and violence. All the murders I committed, all the lives I erased, they weren't random, they were ingredients. Every kill was a page in a ritual to build the second version of me. Not flesh, not blood, echo. And that echo was hungry. I dropped to the floor, screaming, convulsing, my mouth filled with ash. My eyes rolled back. I saw every victim again, every one of them, in reverse. Their deaths unspooling like corrupted VHS tapes, their faces melting back together, staring at me with one question: what are you now? And the truth, I didn't know anymore. I couldn't tell if I was still in control or if the echo was already piloting my body like a meat puppet with delusions of revenge. Then they opened the final gate. A wall at the back of the chamber peeled open like rotten fruit, Behind it, darkness deeper than any cave, tunnel, or nightmare. Inside, something moved, not with legs, with mouths. Thousands of them, mouths that never closed, each one muttering a different name in a dead language. My name, my father's name, the name I haven't even earned yet, the name they're building me into. The inner 12 said nothing. They just knelt, and the mouths began to sing. I ran. I don't even remember how I escaped. All I know is I woke up in a hospital in Florence with third-degree burns across my back and surgical stitches in my legs. No ID, no passport. A priest who wouldn't tell me who brought me in, only that my presence disrupted the local dead. I still have no idea what that means. But now, something's changed. I see things before they happen. I'll pass a building, and I'll know someone's dying inside it. I'll close my eyes and dream in someone else's blood. One night, I even saw myself on a live stream again, but this time, I wasn't behind the camera. I was on the table, and the people watching, they clapped, they cheered. There are rumors now, online forums, deep web message boards. The spine is preparing for the resurrection of the left hand. A final ritual. They need one more kill, one more bloodline to end, one final burnt offering. I think I know who it is. It's not me, not even the echo. It's her, the girl from the beginning, the one they tried to sacrifice in Prague, the copy of me. I think she got away. I think she's coming, and I think she wants to kill what's growing inside me before it becomes God's replacement. The final burn, a face-to-face with the thing pretending to be me, and the truth about the creature. The spine has been building for centuries. Are you ready for the last descent? Because after this, no one comes back. The truth is this: no matter what you believe, what God you follow, what laws you cling to, there is something older than rules, older than evil, something hungry, and it wears us like masks. It doesn't live in hell. Hell lives in it. When I escaped the root, I thought I'd found the edge of the story, like I'd clawed my way to the climax, but I hadn't even touched the surface. I wasn't the final chapter. I was the ink. The story was still being written through me, and the hand holding the pen, it didn't have skin. It didn't have a soul. It had my face. I knew the girl wasn't dead. The child version of me from Prague, the one strapped to the table, breathing through that ancient IV line. She was never part of the offering. She was a spare key, something they bred in the dark in case I failed. But instead of turning into me, she escaped. Somewhere along the chain of torture and ritual, she mutated, survived it all, turned against them, and now she was hunting me. I felt her before I saw her, like rot behind a wall, like mold in your teeth. I was in Berlin when the sky cracked. Not literally, but it felt that way. Sirens started going off at random across the city, screaming in the streets. Hundreds of birds falling from the sky mid-flight, smashing into glass, into cars, into people. No explanation. I knew what it meant. She was close, and she wanted to finish what I couldn't. She found me at 3:16 a.m. in a burned-out train station on the edge of the city, S-Bahnhof Siemensstadt, condemned for 30 years, rotting since the Cold War. I was alone, or I thought I was. Then the light started flickering, and I smelled her. It wasn't perfume. It was me, my scent, my sweat, my rot, but off, like it had turned inside out and started bleeding memories. The smell of iron and childhood, cinnamon and fire, and behind it all, the thick musk of something ancient learning how to breathe again. Then she stepped out of the dark. Let me be clear. She looked like me. Exactly. Same jawline, same scar above the lip, same twitchy eye tick, but her skin was transparent, veins pulsing beneath glossy tissue like candle wax over meat. Her teeth were wrong. Too many. Not in rows, but spirals, like something had grown inward. Her eyes were like two full moons pulled too close to earth. She didn't blink. She studied. They burned me, she said, her voice like broken film. But I remembered the scream. I grew around it. I asked her what she wanted. She smiled and opened her coat. Inside wasn't flesh. It was a cathedral. I'm not being metaphorical. Her entire chest was hollowed out, and inside was a winding mass of staircases, mirrors, cages, and teeth, somehow bigger than her body, like she was a walking portal to the place the spine was born from. I saw children in there, screaming without sound, mothers, old men with black strings stitched into their mouths, hanging, twisting. Every soul they'd ever eaten was in there, awake. You are their echo, she said. I am their silence. She reached out and touched my chest. Her hand went through me, not physically, spiritually, and I felt it all. I saw every kill I'd ever committed, but not from my perspective, from theirs. I felt the way their blood slowed, the heat leave their limbs, the eyes, my God, the eyes, as they looked up at me with that question every victim has, the one they never get to finish. Why? And then I saw what they became. Each one wasn't just a death. Each one was a seed, planted in the soil of the root, and they'd grown into something alive. The girl, my shadow, my twin, my replacement. She began to split open, not like a wound, like reproduction, like a flower opening under a radiation sun. From her flesh sprouted hundreds of arms, some human, some animal, some made of wires that writhed like worms choking on static. They dragged me into her, into the cathedral. The inside was worse than the root, because it wasn't built, it was remembered, constructed entirely of the most painful moments I'd ever lived. My mom screaming on the floor after my father left, the sound of the box cutter sliding across a man's neck, the silence that followed the first time I killed someone and didn't feel anything. Room after room, chamber after chamber, a museum of my crimes, stitched together in flesh and barbed wire. And in the center was him, not my father, not the priest, the true architect. No face, no limbs, just a mass of eyes and mouths spinning in a slow circle around a core of burning hair and laughing teeth. The thing that the spine had been feeding, the thing they had shaped me for, the echo they wanted to turn me into a god weapon for. It spoke through my bones, not in words, in urges, like it could rewrite my instincts with every rotation. I dropped to my knees and vomited blood that wasn't mine. It whispered, "You are almost full." But the girl, she wasn't kneeling. She stepped forward, pulled a jagged mirror from her own throat, held it up to me, and in it, I didn't see myself. I saw the thing inside me, twisted, bloated, wearing my skin like a wet hoodie. It waved, smiled. Its smile stretched past its ears and split the world behind it in half. I screamed and smashed the mirror, and everything went red. We fought, if you can call it that. We became one thing inside the cathedral. Not bodies, not flesh, just trauma spinning on a loop. Our memories bled together, collided, caught fire. I saw her childhood, her escape, her pain. She saw my kills, my rituals, my guilt, what little there was, and in the center of it all, a room with no doors, just a table, and one final name carved into it, mine. They built us to kill each other. That was the final ritual, the final offering. One of us had to be erased for the other to be crowned. Left hand or right hand, burn or feed. There was no third option. So I made one. I took the last blade they'd given me, the one I used to kill my father, and I stabbed myself. Not her, not the echo. Me. All the way through the stomach, twisted until I felt my spine break. She screamed. So did the cathedral. So did the root. The entire world convulsed. And then, silence. I woke up in a hospital in Croatia. No ID, no scars. Just a nurse who wouldn't look me in the eye, and a mirror that didn't show a reflection. Not mine, not hers. Just a flickering image of a child in a burning room, smiling. I think I killed the ritual, but I don't know what that means. I don't know what's left of me. Sometimes I'll walk by strangers and they'll scream, full body terror, like they see something wrapped around me that I can't. One night, I checked a dark web live stream, and there I was, not on a table, not in the room, just sitting behind the camera, grinning, with child strapped to a chair. Same scar, same eyes, same everything. And now I wonder, did I kill the monster or become it?